Yes, this is the easiest apple pie you will ever make. It's actually a pie that doesn't have a pastry shell, instead it has an apple cinnamon mixture on the bottom and a soft and chewy dough on the top. It's full of tender apples and loaded with cinnamon, and that's all what I need when it comes to apple pie, so you get the same great flavor without all the work. This recipe has a short list of wholesome ingredients, and I start with apples. Here I have Gala apples, but feel free to use any apples you have on hand or use a combination of different kinds of apples. They're quite small, so I need 9 of these, which is 2 pounds or 1 kilo in total. I prefer to peel my apples, but if you want you can leave the skin on. Then quarter them, remove the seeds and thinly slice rather than leaving them thicker, because it helps them to cook faster and turn into a jammier filling. Next, toss the apples with 3 tablespoons maple syrup, 2 teaspoons cinnamon powder and 2 tablespoons oat flour that helps thicken the filling and hold it together once it cools down. Anyway, stir everything until well coated and transfer to the prepared baking dish. And for today's pie I choose to use this 9-inch springform pan that I'm going to grease with some butter, but a regular pie plate would be even more appropriate. And I'm going to cover my apples and pre-bake for 15 minutes in order to soften them a bit, because I make this topping with oats and it tends to brown quickly in the oven. And because I use a springform pan, I prefer to place it on a lined baking sheet to catch any drips in the oven. While the apples are baking, let's make the top layer. I start with 1 large egg that will help this cake-like crust hold together and provide structure. Next, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 3 tablespoons maple syrup because maple syrup and apples are just perfect together, 2 tablespoons melted and cool butter, and quarter cup any type of yogurt you have on hand or even some milk. Whisk it up and you start adding dry ingredients, and I'm gonna do that right into the same bowl. I add 1 and 1/4 cup ground oats or homemade oat flour. You can do it yourself in a blender. 2 tablespoons cornstarch to improve the texture, 1 teaspoon baking powder and a tiny pinch of salt. Stir until just combine without over mixing. At the end the batter should be quite thick, not really pourable. So instead of rolling and all the work that comes with regular pie crust, just spoon this batter all over the apples and smooth it out with a rubber spatula. There's no need to sprinkle any additional sugar on top. And it bakes for additional 30 to 35 minutes until the top gets nicely brown and a bit crispy. This way the topping forms a lid that is halfway between a cookie and a pie crust. Anyway, this pie needs a little time to set up, so make sure to let it cool for an hour before serving if you want a nice slices, but you can definitely spoon it out like a cobbler style and eat right away. After 1 hour I can easily slice it into 8 equal pieces, and I got clean slices all the time with no fuss, even if there's no crust at the bottom. Take a look, the apples are softened but not really mushy, the cake-like topping is crispy on top, while some of the batter sink into the apples creating a soft cookie-like texture. And once you dig in I'm sure you won't complain about it doesn't have a pastry crust. It has a chewy but tender texture, and it's full of delicious apples and comforting cinnamon in every bite. And instead of traditional vanilla sauce that takes time to make, you can serve it with maple Greek yogurt glaze you can whip up in a minute. So if you find making a pie too challenging or you just don't have time to make the crust from scratch, this is the pie for you. It just takes less time and skill to make. And this same crustless method you can apply when preparing other recipes as well. I already made a crustless ricotta cheesecake before and it turned out so delicious. Check out that recipe now. Thank you so much for watching. See you in another video. Stay healthy, stay happy.